up, guys? Welcome to The Smart Student. I'm happy you are here because today I want to talk about how you can structure your academic writing assignments when they come with no clearly defined objectives. And now, I know this is an important topic because, quite frankly, if I had a dollar bill for the amount of times a student has come to me in a panic because they don't know what they're supposed to write about, well, I'd probably still have to make YouTube videos, but my coffee fund would be through the roof, you know what I mean? So what do I mean by no clearly defined objectives? Well, it's exactly what I said. Either the assignment is vague, there's a lack of clarity, maybe the writing prompt is confusing, maybe your professor didn't explain it properly. Whatever the case may be, you're unsure about what you're supposed to do. Cue the confusion. Now, stir in the fact that most of you are in online schooling right now, and there's that lack of face-to-face interaction with your professors and other students. It's even harder to clarify assignments when you're confused. So that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today, because I'm going to teach you how to create crystal clear clarity when you find yourself in this position. Sound good? Okay, so what we're going to be doing in this video, I can summarize in 2 words, and that is create clarity. Because if you have an unclear assignment that you need to make clear, then you need to create clarity. Am I clear, Crystal? Anyways, the good news is that creating clarity can be done in a simple 3-step process. What you're going to do is you're going to look for clues, you're going to relate those clues back to your course material, and then you're going to choose the structure of your paper. And so let's walk through each of these steps one at a time. All right, step number 1, look for clues. Wait a minute, I do have a quick disclaimer. I must say, for the record, that if you can clarify your assignments with your professor, or you can clarify it with another student who knows what they're doing, you want to do that first and foremost, because that's going to be your best option. But speaking from experience, that's not an option that's available to everyone, hence why I'm making this video. So let's start again. All right, step 1, look for clues. So here's the thing. Even the most vague assignments leave clues. No matter what, there's always going to be either a keyword, an important terminology, a vocabulary word. Even if it's just one, that is a clue, and that is what you're going to use to relate back to your course material. And that's exactly what you're going to do in that second step, is you're going to take that clue. Let's say it's one vocabulary word. You're going to take that and relate it back to what you're currently learning, because here's the thing. It's very rare that you're assigned an assignment that's not relevant to what you're currently studying. And it's very, very rare, if honestly mostly impossible, that you're going to be assigned something that you haven't learned yet. If anything, you may get assignment that is stuff you learned earlier in your course, but more than likely it's going to be something central to what you're learning right now. So I'm about to walk you through a real life example going through both of these steps, but first I have a list of questions that I've come up with that can help guide you through this process. So first things first, you receive your assignment, it's vague, you don't know what to do. Here is what you want to start by asking yourself. What course was this assigned to you in? Obviously, that's kind of a common sense question, but hey, you definitely want to start in the right course. Next, do any of these keywords look familiar? That question pertains to looking for clues. And the rest of the questions are going to be how you relate it back to your course material. So where we're at now, it would go something like this. Okay, I'm in marketing right now, and yes, that keyword, that's a vocabulary word, I recognize it. Now you want to ask yourself, can you find that keyword in your textbook? Then you would go look in your textbook to find where that word is located. A couple other things you can ask yourself are, what are you currently studying in that course? Or was this assigned to you after a particular lesson? And mind you, you could sub out the word lesson with after a particular chapter, after a unit, after a certain lecture. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that you pinpoint exactly what you're studying when this was assigned to you. Because like I said, typically your assignments are given to you based around what is current in your course. But now what I'd like to do is jump into my computer and I want to demonstrate those 2 steps. I'm going to pull up a real life example that is somewhat vague, doesn't necessarily tell you exactly how you should structure your paper. We're going to grab the clue, find it in our course material, and then I'm going to show you how I would create an outline for that paper. Now, speaking of structure, I want to touch on that real quick because Oftentimes, if you can grab the right clue and find it in the right place in your textbook, you will find the structure you need in your course material. But that being said, there is still sometimes writing assignments you'll receive where you have to pick the structure. So the reason I'm saying this now is because after this example, don't run away, because I have 6 different ways, creative ways if you will, that you can choose to structure your writing that I want to share with you after the tutorial. But anyways, for right now, let's go ahead and jump into my computer and we'll get into the structures later. And here we are. Welcome to my computer. So here's how this is going to work. Right here in front of us, this is our assignment. So I'm going to read through it first. Together, we're going to find the clues. And then I'm going to take you through the process of how I would relate it back to my course material. Okay? So here we go. You are part of a collaborative team of an international organization for which you have the task of developing a code of ethics. You will develop a global code of ethics that integrates and demonstrates respect for the diverse groups that you do business with, such as the nations of India, the United Arab Emirates, and Japan. Your code of ethics should be 2 to 3 pages in length, which each code explained in detail. Be sure to outline within the code how behaviors will be enforced. The code should also be supported by a 1 to 2 page summary outlining the importance of the behaviors selected. Okay, so right away, I'm going to say that this isn't the most unclear assignment in the world. There are some instructions. I mean, it's clear we need to make a code of ethics, but why this falls under the category of a vague assignment is because while this is telling me I need to make a code of ethics, there's no clearly outlined objectives as to what those are. Because quite frankly, there's a ton of ways you can approach code of ethics, thus creating that uncertainty, and is why we need to create clarity. So step 1 is to locate those clues. And now I've already kind of done that. As I'm sure you can imagine, our main clue is this phrase right here, which is the code of ethics. Because if you remember, the clues you're looking for are key terms, vocabulary words, important terminology. Basically, you want to find that key term that you can go find in your textbook. So out of this entire paragraph, code of ethics is going to be that main clue. Now I'm going to keep in mind that I'm going to look for code of ethics that integrates and demonstrates respects for diverse groups. So I want to be looking for a global code of ethics as well. But most importantly, I want to take that code of ethics and now find it in my textbook, because maybe that's going to lead me to a more definitive way to approach this assignment. But now let me walk you through the process of how I would take that clue and relate it back to my course material. Keep in mind for the rest of this tutorial, I've purposely planned this so that way I don't overload you with too much information, because sifting through an entire course's worth of material could be a lot for you. So stick with me through this. This is going to be a true test to how I am as a teacher. So be sure to let me know in the comment section how I'm doing. But all right, we've got our code of ethics, check. So first things first, you know what course you're in, and we're in leadership organizational behavior. Cool. Note how this assignment is in Unit 4. So right away, that would tell me that I know code of ethics is probably going to be in one of these objectives. So the first thing I would do is I would go to objective 1 and I would look at the main reading section and ask myself, do I remember code of ethics here? And so this one, I'm going to say, no, I don't remember reading code of ethics in that chapter. What about objective 2? Organizational structure and change, combating evil. By the way, some textbooks are really labeled really weird things, but again, I'm going to think, was code of ethics in here? And no, I don't quite remember it being in there, so I'm going to move to objective 3. And then here we have creating an ethical organizational climate. Ooh, there's that word ethical, creating an ethical organizational climate. I think this might be where the code of ethics was located. So now I'm going to go to my reading. I'm going to go through all the prompts to get to my textbook. Bear with me, this takes just a second. And then now I'm going to look through my reading material to see if I can find that clue in the textbook. Okay, so here we go. My first pro tip for you is oftentimes academic textbooks, they have this little summary portion before each chapter letting you know what's in each chapter. If you see that, go ahead and skim that paragraph just to see if you can find your keyword there first, because oftentimes you will, because a lot of times if you don't see your keyword in this introduction section,
it's probably not in that chapter. So I'm gonna go ahead and check out this section that says what's ahead. What I see here is we got leaders act as ethics officers. Cool, cool, cool. I'm skimming, I'm looking for code of ethics, and oh, here we go. Right at the bottom, I see code of ethics here. So that's a clue to me that, okay, I think I'm on the right path. So now I'm gonna skim through this chapter. Another pro tip is if you find your keyword at the end of the introduction section, there's a good chance that you're going to find it at the end of the chapter, because oftentimes the material is organized in the order you're going to receive it. So now I'm going to start browsing, and most importantly, I'm going to pay attention to the section headings, if there's any words that are bolded, although this looks like they use italicized words, which are kind of hard to see. So I'm going to pay attention to the main sections. I see ethical climates. Ooh, to me, I see that right there will probably be important later to refer to, especially if I want to include different cultures. But first, I want to find code of ethics to start because that's my main keyword. So I really want to start there, and then I'll come back to this other material that might be helpful as well. So I'm scrolling down, I see justice, I see integrity, I see trust right here. I'm going to keep going. Let's see here, social responsibility, climate building tools. Okay, that's important. Let's see what else we have here. Again, I'm looking for code of ethics. Do I see it? I see other countries listed here, so that's important because I know I need to refer to those 3 countries in the writing prompt. Oh, here we go. Code of ethics. This is my main clue. This is my main keyword. So this is where I want to start. I'm actually going to zoom in on this section just so we can see a little bit better what we're working with. But all right, so we have code of ethics. This explains what it is. It has all these bullet points about what code of ethics should be. For example, codes or what they shouldn't be, pardon me, codes are too vague, codes may not be widely distributed or read. Okay, so this is good because this is telling me, this is helping me know what I need to do in building code of ethics. But let's see here. So, ooh, I like this right here. Most code of ethics address the following. And note how there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullet points of examples of code of ethics. And so, ooh, they even demonstrate it further here. Let's see what we have. Oh, okay, I see what they're doing. So they took these 6 codes of ethics and they're providing me with examples. And then notice the sentence right here. If you're interested in developing or refining a code of ethics, you can use the examples in box 9.4 as a model. So that right there is fantastic. And you want to know why? Because I think I just uncovered the exact framework I can use to structure my paper. Because if I need to create a code of ethics, and quite frankly, I had no idea where to start on what those code of ethics should be and how many I should include, well, right here, this is telling me that I can use this as a model. So that's fabulous because now I know how I'm going to structure my paper. I'm going to tailor it to meet the other criterias in that writing prompt, such as making it on a global scale and tying it into those 3 different cultures. But now I know how I'm going to create my outline. So with this information, I'm going to pull up a blank document and let me show you the exact outline I would create. And we're back. So I went ahead and rearranged my screen. What you're looking at is on the left-hand side, I have the document that I'm going to create the outline for. And then right here on the right-hand side, I have my textbook still open to this section so I can refer to it. And I did my due diligence of setting up a title page, which, by the way, if you need help setting up APA title pages, be sure to check out this video right here. For time purposes, I'm not going to walk you through that. Also, I've selected a company to create the code of ethics for. I went ahead and chose Walmart because it's a global company. But first things first, under APA 7th edition, I'm sure we all know this by now, it will always be the first section heading in your paper. So right away, I'm going to copy and paste that there. So now I have this section and I know this is where my introduction is going to go. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and type out introduction right here, just so that way, as I'm creating the outline, you can see exactly my logic for where I'm putting everything in my paper. But now the next question I would ask myself is, okay, I know I need to make a code of ethics. Do I need to include any sections before? Perhaps is there any information I need to include before I jump right into that code of ethics? And so reading through this writing prompt, if you remember, we do indeed have another objective to address, and that is the global code of ethics that integrates and demonstrates respects for those 3 countries. And so for me, what I would do is I would create a section after the introduction to introduce that part of the paper, and then I would lead into the code of ethics. And so I'm going to create a main section, a level 1 section heading for something that goes along the lines with that. So very simple, I might label that something like global code of ethics. And boom, it would look something like that. So I have the level 1 global code of ethics section heading, and then just to show you, here is where I'm going to write my intro to those other countries, introducing these 3 different countries to my paper. So now I would ask myself, is there any other criteria that I need to meet, or can I go ahead and get into the code of ethics? And quite frankly, no, there really isn't anything else I need to cover. So now I'm going to start creating my outline for those code of ethics based on the 6 I found in my textbook. So the question is, do you want to create them as a level 1 or a level 2 section heading? And this is where you use your discretion. Personally, I'm going to create these as level 2 section headings because they're going to be a subsection to this main section where I introduced the concept of the global code of ethics in regard to these 3 countries. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward my screen and type all these out. I'll be back in a second. So now I have these 6 code of ethics, and when I write my paper, I would go through and write out each code of ethic in detail, and that would wrap up that portion. And so lastly, I'm going to refer back to my assignment one more time and ask myself, okay, is there anything else I need to include in this paper? And so yes, it asked me to include 1 to 2 page summary outlining the importance of the behavior selected. So I know that after I write out my code of ethics, I still need to write a 1 to 2 page summary, which in my head, that sounds a lot like a discussion or a conclusion. And so I'm going to create a section heading for that. And I'm actually going to go back to a level 1 section heading and put it on its own section. And so I might type out something like discussion to label this section. And then as always, you can include the word conclusion for your conclusion, whereas you can't include the introduction, you can include a conclusion section. And so whether or not you include the conclusion as a level 1 or a level 2 is up to you. But what I always advise students to do is ask yourself, is the last section in your paper, how complex is it? Because if it's really complex, then go ahead and put the conclusion on its own level 1 section heading. But if it's not complex and the conclusion can fit in that section, go ahead and include it as a level 2. So here, if our last section is simply a discussion, well, I think the conclusion would go in line with that. So I'm going to include the conclusion for this paper as a level 2 section heading. So now the conclusion is a subsection to the discussion, which is a great way to wrap up this paper. But now, as you can see, I have a clearly defined paper that reflects this assignment. And so I would write out an introduction to this assignment. I would then introduce the concept of a global code of ethics, which is being asked of me right here. I would then create detailed code of ethics in regards to that. And then lastly, I would include that 1 to 2 page summary and a conclusion. So as you can see, we took this assignment that was somewhat vague. It wasn't entirely clear of what we should do. We took the clues, and when we related it back to our course material, it was fairly simple to locate and figure out exactly what we should do. So much so that we were able to create a clear outline based on the assignment. And so now my job is easy. All I have to do is go in and fill each of those sections out, and I'm good to go. And we're back. I hope you found that tutorial helpful because as you saw, we had this writing prompt and it wasn't totally vague, but we didn't necessarily know how to structure our writing. I mean, we had the keyword code of ethics, but it really didn't give us clear objectives to go off. And so that's what I mean by create clarity is we took that keyword code of ethics and when we related it back to the course material where I received that assignment, we were able to find an exact framework to base our writing on, which as you can imagine would make writing that paper so much easier. But now I want to go over those 6 creative ways that you can choose to structure your writing as well. And this is going to go for if you can't necessarily find objectives in your book. Now you have a writing prompt and you have the freedom or flexibility to structure your writing, which with that flexibility is usually where that frustration comes into play because you don't know if you're doing it right or wrong. Keep in mind that I can't exactly tell you the best way to outline your papers without actually looking at your writing prompt. And so what these 6 strategies are just
They're more tools for your academic writing tool belt. They're just creative ways to get the wheels turning when you're stuck. So let's go ahead and get into that now. And I have a pro tip with you that I'd like you to take with you for all of these strategies. And I'm gonna say it now and kind of explain it, but fair warning, you're probably not gonna understand it as I explain it more as we get into the specific strategies. And so the pro tip is that you should let your paper length determine how many points you need to make. And generally, you're gonna wanna make a few points fewer than your page count. So the nutshell version here, because I'm sure that didn't quite make sense, is that oftentimes when you have a vague writing assignment, you get something along the lines of, you need to write about this and you need to make it that long. And so there's no objectives in the middle telling you how many points you need to make on that topic. And so what I'm trying to say is oftentimes if you don't know how much you're supposed to write about something, you always want to keep it just a few points fewer than your page count, so that way you have enough room for your introduction and your conclusion. So keep that with you for right now. I promise I'm going to explain that better as I have an actual example for you to understand. So the first strategy you could use to structure your paper would be to use a cause and effect outline. So here you're going to analyze the relationship between an event and its outcome. So for example, let's say your topic is the effect social media has on self-esteem and you need to write a 6-page paper about that. Great. The event here is social media and its outcome is self-esteem. And so you're going to analyze the cause and effect relationship between that topic. And now let me reiterate what I was trying to say before about my pro tip by let the paper count determine how many points you need to make. Well, for this example, if you're writing a 6-page essay, what I mean by make a few points fewer than your page count is I would recommend writing about 4 or 5 distinct relationship aspects or just topics based on that cause and effect relationship, because that will leave you with enough room to write an introduction and a conclusion. And I find that this is generally pretty accurate to meet that page count. But now moving on to the next strategy, and that is to structure your paper based on a problem solution formatting. So this is actually fairly common and it's a pretty easy one to structure your paper. And the whole purpose here is that your topic is centered around a problem, or it's based on an issue, and the purpose of your writing is to pose a solution or a few solutions to it. So let's say your new topic is the inflated amount of dogs in dog pounds. Okay, so that's obviously based around a problem. What you would do here is you would first outline the problem. Maybe you would provide examples, statistics, whatever you need to build the background information, context, build a case that this is a problem. And then the rest of your paper is going to be based on you providing solutions to fix that problem. So some of those solutions might be simply bringing awareness to the problem, or posing research that people should do before they purchase their first dog. Or maybe you want to bring awareness to fostering dogs. The solution is up to you, but as you can see, that's a fairly simple way to outline your paper. But now moving on to the next strategy, which is also a fairly simple one. Actually, I'm going to stop saying they're fairly simple because I'm going to say an umbrella statement to all of these, and that is that if you apply these methods, they're actually all pretty simple. But this next one is where your topic is debatable. And here you would outline a for and against structure for your writing. So off the top of my head, my mind goes to controversial topics or topics that are argumentative. So let's say your topic is based around government regulations in your state. Whatever government regulation, I don't know, but it's something that's debatable. And there's clear sides of people that are for it and against it. Well, you could write your paper outlining both of those sides, or who knows, you can outline your paper based on which side that you stand on. Again, the choice is up to you, but you're always going to start by providing the background information, context, whatever your reader needs to know, and then you're going to outline the different sides. But that leads me into the next strategy, which is to compare and contrast. So this is most appropriate when your topic has more than one distinct point. So there's probably 2 points within that topic. There's a few moving parts within the topic you're supposed to analyze. So for example, maybe your topic is going straight to college out of high school or taking a gap year. So these are 2 distinct things, and you could easily compare and contrast them. You could look for the good and bad in each one, what the advantages and disadvantages of each of them are. Something to keep in mind here is that you have even more flexibility on how you structure your comparing and contrasting. So for example, you could write out all the advantages of going straight to college, all the advantages of taking a gap year, and then flip it and do all the disadvantages of going straight to college and all the disadvantages of taking a gap year. Or you could go advantages, disadvantages, advantages, disadvantages, and kind of have them side by side showing the equal and opposites next to each other. And now that brings me to the next one, which is very similar, but it is different, and that is to write a paper about pros and cons. So pros and cons are most appropriate when your topic has one central theme, one central topic or idea that you need to analyze, whereas comparing and contrasting is best for two. So taking the previous example from comparing and contrasting, now you take one chunk of that and you want to write a paper about the pros and cons of taking a gap year. So like I said, very similar to comparing and contrasting, the difference is just now you have that one central idea. Does that make sense? But that leads me into the last strategy, which is simply a long description. Now, this is the hardest for me to verbalize because it really depends on what your writing prompt is, because here's the thing, sometimes there's not an angle that's most appropriate to approach your writing prompt, rather than it just needs an explanation. Maybe it's a question that needs an answer, or again, it's just a topic that needs to be explained. An example of a topic that might be best for a long description would fall under the lines of something like, explain what you expect from pop culture over the next 2 years. So here, again, you're going to start with providing context, background information, and then judging by what you believe, what you think, what you've researched, you're going to provide an explanation that fulfills that writing prompt. Or perhaps your writing prompt is to analyze violence in the gaming industry and you need to write a 10-page paper on it. Great. Step one, you go do your research on that topic. You come back, you critically think, okay, what did I uncover? What are my conclusions? What did I learn? That's what you're going to put into your paper. Another way that I like to think about a long description is, imagine you are a tour guide and your reader is the tourist. Your topic is what you're guiding that tourist through. So you're going to be walking whoever, well, your professor, you're going to be walking them through this topic, critically analyzing or explaining until, again, you fulfilled that writing prompt. I've said fulfilled a lot. Alrighty, that's gonna be it for today. I wanted to pop back in here and see how you're doing. Actually, I wanted to pop back in here and ask you how I did. Let me know if this video helped you out down in the comment section below. By the way, interact with this video somehow, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. It's what helps support this channel. It's what allows me to keep doing what I do. So thank you for being here. But also the last thing I want to give you before I say bye is that if you haven't downloaded this free academic writing starter kit, be sure to do that. I'll link it in the description below. I'll put it up here somewhere on the screen. I always get confused on which side I need to point to. But anyways, I find a lot of students are finding value with that template. So again, be sure to download that if you haven't already. And as always, guys, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.